Good afternoon. I know this is weird. I'm usually here doing something with either Matt Krotz or all this for either When in Rome or Vive l'Empereur. We're gonna have to start up that Napoleon show again at some point. I'll have to get with all this on that. But I just figured I'd come hang out for a little bit. There's some stuff that I figured I'd talk about because, why not? But in the chat we have Miranda's hanging out there. What up? Hail Miranda. We'll see if anybody else joins. We have 2 people in the chat technically, so we'll see. Anyways, so topic of discussion for today is Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra, which is an upcoming video game that's been in the works for a while. There's been a lot. I don't want to say hype. We got Michael Briers in the chat. Thanks for coming to hang out with us, Michael. I wouldn't say that there's been like a lot of hype building up behind the game because the past couple of video game releases that Marvel has done have been pretty lackluster. But it was announced, I want to say like a year and a half ago. It sounds about right. That we were going to be getting a Captain America, Black Panther crossover game set in World War II. So like, this is they finally released the trailer, I think yesterday or the day before, and I've technically already seen it. So I guess trailer reaction isn't quite the right thing, but we are going to watch the trailer. I'm going to kind of break down some things that I have about it. But before we do that, let's just kind of read the premise. So this is from, we'll do a screen share here. So this is from the official Marvel website, Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra. Overview is: in the chaos of war, worlds collide. Captain America and Azuri, the Black Panther of the 1940s, must overcome their differences and form an uneasy alliance to confront their common enemy. Fighting alongside Gabriel Jones of the Howling Commandos and Nanali, a Wakandan spy embedded in occupied Paris, they must join forces to stop a sinister plot that threatens to turn the havoc of World War II into the ultimate rise of Hydra. Okay, so we're going to stop sharing that. Let's see. Briers is saying stuff. See, at first I thought it was a time-displaced Black Panther. When I heard about it, I feel like that would be cooler. Maybe. I think the ultimate problem here is Wakanda was notoriously isolation. Like, that's the whole point in the books, is that, T'Challa is the first person to really branch out and do anything. They had kind of stayed neutral throughout all of the world wars, didn't really get involved. So to say that there is a mutual enemy in Paris, they're going to have to do some heavy lifting. That's going to imply there was probably some Hydra agent that stole something from Wakanda, maybe a mythical relic. But the studio behind the game is Skydance News Media, which is a why can't I talk? They handle a whole bunch of different things. In fact, this is like one of their their video game department is relatively new. They've predominantly done film and maybe a little TV. But the project is being headed by Amy Hennig, who I will pull up here in a minute. Well, I mean, you can look her up on Wikipedia, is what it is. But I mean, she's got quite the resume. She worked on the Legacy of Kain series, Jack and Daxter, and did the good Uncharted game. She did Drake's Defiance, which is the first one, Among Thieves, and Drake's Deception, which are all great games. So like those are all pretty promising credentials to have, and have her be like the head of the project is certainly not a bad thing. I want to start with these kinds of pros sections as well, because I don't want to sound like I'm just a negative jerk that's just looking to tear this thing apart. Because my overall opinion is I'm not particularly enthusiastic about it based off of the trailer. But you've also got some really good actors involved. Probably the biggest one is why am I blanking on his name? Man, I cannot think of it for Carrie Payton. That's what I'm thinking of. So they've got Carrie Payton voicing this Black Panther, and Carrie Payton has a whole bunch of really strong roles under his belt. Probably for those of us that are into the more comic book side and animated series, he was the voice of Cyborg in the Teen Titans cartoon, and he voiced Aqualad in Young Justice. He also played Ezekiel in the Walking Dead series. So really good actor, very strong actor to get for that. They got kind of a no-namer playing Steve. So without further ado, let's get this trailer going. And I'll kind of pause and give my thoughts. So before we even start, the game's obviously called thank you, Michael. The game's obviously called Marvel 1943, which gives us, the answer of when this is taking place. And I do have some issues here. The game takes place in occupied Paris in 1943, which doesn't really make sense from a logistical standpoint. I don't think Cap, if I recall from the comics, I think Cap first got to France on the D-Day invasion. Like he was with the Howling Commandos at Omaha Beach. So like that doesn't really work. At that point in time in the war, the majority of the war effort on the Western Front is on the Mediterranean coast of North Africa. And towards the end of 43, we're getting into Sicily and Italy, which are rough campaigns in their own right. So setting this in 1943 occupied Paris, I get that they want to do a more stealth approach game and have it almost have it be like a political, feel like, I know that they want stealth to be like a big proponent to the game. It's very clear from the trailer, but yeah. So let's watch this trailer.
They're combing the streets.
Copyright struck.
Searching house to house.
If they arrest you two, they will take you to their headquarters, and you will not return.
I'm more concerned with a 6-foot cat man who's got claws that can cut through vibranium.
All right, so here's our first look at Cap. The first thing that I noticed about him, obviously, really small, which I thought was an odd choice. He looks young, but Steve Rogers, depending on what version you're reading, between the ages of 18 and 20 when he goes through Project Rebirth. So, yeah, I guess. But I think that the bigger thing for me is he kind of has this weird Southern drawl. He doesn't sound like he's from New York. And I find that to be a interesting choice. So let's keep going.
Malloy. By my count, that makes 2 super soldiers loose in Paris.
3, counting you.
And that's 2 too many.
All right, so this line has caused some debate. I mean, obviously, you've got Black Panther and Cap, who are like the 2 quote unquote super soldiers. So who's the third? I'm willing to bet that the third one is Red Skull, because I think that they're trying to insinuate that Hydra is separate from the, like, yes, they are working with Nazi Germany, but they are a separate entity that is running a rogue operation behind the scenes, is kind of what I'm gathering from some of the plot details. But we'll see. I mean, there's also potential, I guess, that it could be Wolverine if they wanted to do that. But, like, again, having this kind of clandestine operation in occupied Paris in 43 doesn't really make sense when one of your leads is in bright blue, red, white, and blue, you know? And yeah, they've given him like this kind of color muted leather costume, but yeah, we'll see.
I'll be there before the sun rises, before the Germans, before that American. The Eye of Force has been found.
So I know that there's probably going to be some people complaining about this because, oh, well, you know, there weren't integrated units back in World War II, but Gabriel Jones has always been a member of the Howling Commandos. He is Black, so anybody that tries to throw that argument out there, it goes away. This is pulled from comics continuity, so not a big deal. And it's a specialized unit, so whatever. To keep rolling.
Please, just stick to the rooftops. Be careful. Stand me.
When am I not?
So Carrie Payton's voice delivery here is good, but like there are points where he sounds more like Caribbean islands than African, and that's one of those moments. So I thought that was an interesting choice for voice direction, but whatever.
It's better if I tackle this one alone.
You may encounter some obstacles.
That won't be a problem.
Our cat friend is definitely here too. By the look of things, he's not very far.
I'm not really crazy about this costume. Maybe it will look better in actual game and when it's released or what have you. I understand that they're trying to give it this more like grounded aesthetic, kind of like what the MCU did, but I don't really like it. And he just looks small. He looks tiny. I mean, he received a super soldier serum, emphasis on the super. It enhanced his physical appearance and everything like that. Like, he should be pretty yoked. At the very least, have the same like BMI of Black Panther, and I don't think that they've accomplished that there.
Ahead.
The American boy is right on your heels.
Who the hell are you?
If you wanted us dead, we'd be dead. So what do you want?
Answers.
That's far enough!
Stay out of my way!
Stand aside!
I do not take orders from anyone! I don't have time for this.
I mean, obviously, we're setting up a silly rivalry between Black Panther and Cap, which I think is dumb. because that's not. I don't feel like that's Steve Rogers' style. They've released like the full interaction between these two during the tech demo, and they had removed the Panther mask from Carrie Payton's face model so that they could show the intricate detail. And Cap starts swaggering in with the whole, you're getting in the way of an operation for the United States government. And it's like, I think that this is a failing on the writing department, not really understanding who Steve Rogers is as a character. Yeah, Miranda, that's what I said earlier is like, it sounds way more Caribbean islands than it does African. And there is a massive difference. So it was an odd choice. He also is like lighter in skin tone. Like Wakanda is generally considered to be in the sub-Saharan Africa, like the African sub-Saharan continent, like sub-Saharan Africa, right? Like he's generally depicted as having like considerably darker skin tone. So I don't really think that was the right choice either. But I mean, at the end of the day, whatever, apples and oranges, I guess. I'm not gonna make too big of a stink on it. It's Carrie Payton. He's easily the biggest draw to the game outside of the developer's resume, which is filled with some very big fan favorite games. I mean, the world looks beautiful. The graphics are obviously gorgeous. It's got the money behind it. But from a narrative standpoint, there are lots of problems, and we'll go into that here in a sec.
So do I.
That's I think it's just that score, and it kind of zooms in more. I mean, music's good. They've got a pretty good composer on that. But okay, so let's tackle this one piece at a time. So let's look at the setting. So again, we're in occupied Paris, 1943. All right. My big problem is, from a Captain America standpoint, the Allied war effort isn't on continental Europe much yet. It's to prevent the German expansion into North Africa and create a baseline for a launching point of an Allied invasion of Europe. And that northern coast of Africa is a very big part of that. So it doesn't really make sense for Cap to be there. And if they were going to be on Europe in 1943, he sure as shit wouldn't be in Paris. He'd likely be in Italy or Sicily, because though that's where the American war effort was. And yeah, he did specialty missions and everything like that. Went behind enemy lines and what have you, but those campaigns are pretty freaking especially the Italian campaign in World War II was a brutal fight. And so I don't think that him being in Paris makes much sense. And then you look over at the Black Panther side of things, and Wakanda is like 100% isolationist at this point. If I recall correctly, in some versions and like some comic versions, Wakanda maintained their neutrality, but they had sent the vibranium deposit to the States so that way they could make Captain America's shield as a way of like good faith and being like, yeah, we're staying out of this, but we want you guys to win. So here's this little edge. So for Wakanda to not only be involved to the point where a Black Panther is sent in, which is generally is the ruling person of Wakanda. He's going into occupied Paris, which doesn't really make sense to me. And I'm sure that that's a plot detail that will be explored. There's clearly some personal stakes going on there, just based off of line delivery and stuff like that. But I don't know if they'll be able to, I don't know if that conflict will be proper enough impetus to set up the story there. And I really don't like the combative stance of Steve Rogers talking down to a neutral third party like that. I don't think that's in Steve's character. Steve definitely tries to do stuff on his own when he can, but he's never discouraged the help of others. It's not like Batman, who's like, I've got to do all this alone. This is my burden to bear. During the 40s, Cap was the leader of an Avengers-style superhero team called the Invaders, which had him, Bucky, Namor, Jim Hammond, Human Torch, and his sidekick, Toro. And I think that there is one or two extras that would be thrown in here or there, depending on where they were fighting. But these guys operated throughout World War II, fought Germans and the Japanese. And so this doesn't really work for me, is because I feel like if Cap is on a clandestine mission in occupied Paris and found out that there was another Black Panther there, he'd likely confront him and then be like, let's fall back and get a plan together and see what our resources are, because that's who Steve is. But instead, he's very apprehensive, and I know that they're trying to capitalize on, he's a young gun, right? He's fresh into the uniform, got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. But there's a reason why Steve was given that serum. The whole point was he was a person that he was a good person more than he would have made a good soldier. And so there's a line that's not in that trailer, but it was in the tech demo where they revealed that whole thing where, as I said, he's talking about, you're interfering with U.S. government business or something like that. And I'm like, that's not Steve Rogers. That's not his personality. That's not how he would handle this situation. So I honestly feel like this is a kind of cheap attempt to have these two kind of collide. And it's the same kind of thing that you get from Batman versus Superman. But this one I feel could be more politically charged. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's how do you how do we justify this when all of these characters seem to kind of be acting outside of their nature? And the more that I've thought about it, the more frustrated I get. Now, I could end up being wrong. It could end up being a brilliant game, as I said. It's certainly in pretty good hands from a development standpoint. Amy Hennig has a very impressive background. The only thing that is a bit of a red flag is that she was on the development team for Forspoken as a writer, but she was one of 4 writers on that project, and so it's like Forspoken, yeah, it was not a particularly good game, but it was hardly hers. She is the creative lead on Marvel 1943. She is the head writer, along with Mark Bernardin. Let's see what he's done, because I haven't really looked. Oh, okay, this is probably going to be bad. Just looking at, staff writer for Castle Rock, Treadstone, Carnival Row, and is currently a supervising producer on Star Trek Picard, which I have heard very mixed things about. He's writing the animated series Eyes of Wakanda for Disney Plus. And he was a writer for Masters of the Universe Revelation on Netflix. So it's like, yeah, all right. I don't think that this is going to be particularly good. This is kind of stinking of, we're going to have Black Panther and Cap fight. Cap's going to get put in his place. Black Panther is going to get all the glory, and then they'll, like, when Cap admits that, you know, he's in the wrong, then Black Panther will graciously allow him to continue the mission with him, and then they'll take down whoever they're taking down, probably Red Skull. But yeah, not a lot to say about the game just yet. As I said, all we have is like a very small story trailer. They did a Games Tech demo showcasing the world. The design of the world is very good. We know that it takes place in winter of 1943, which means I would say it's probably towards the tail end. That's the only way that it would make any sense. Beginning of 1943, there's just too much crap going on for the Allies to even be remotely concerned with doing some weird clandestine thing. But who knows? I could be wrong. I don't know. But this is probably going to be a miss. When does this come out? I think it comes out in 2025. Yeah, it doesn't have a specific release date, just says 2025. Given that they did this gameplay trailer like yesterday, it's March of 2024. So yeah, probably Q1 of next year, between January and March. We'll have to keep our eyes out, but as I said, from this first look, not a lot really going on. Just a lot, there's not a lot to offer there, and what is being offered doesn't particularly impress me. I'm sure that the gameplay is going to be beautiful. They have a great design team, but at the end of the day, with a game like this, you've got two characters that are icons that have very big fan bases, and I think they're setting up one to fail, just based off of what we've seen in the trailer and who we have developing the story. But anyways, I know this has been a pretty quick video. This is not like I don't really think that there's anything else to cover with this other than, you know, X-Men 97 also came out this week, and that's fantastic. So if you guys haven't watched X-Men 97, be sure you do yourself that favor. But otherwise, yeah, Marvel 1943 is looking like it's going to be a miss. I certainly won't be getting it unless they do like a gameplay demo and Cap's combat just looks really good. Captain America is my favorite character, so it's like video games with him in a central role already have kind of I already have me kind of pegged at a weakness, because it's like I want to be able to play as Cap, but I'm not particularly impressed with this costume design. I'm not particularly impressed with the model that they have for it. I think he's really small in stature, which doesn't make sense to me. I'm fairly certain that like Steve is supposed to be post serum is like between 6'2" and 6'4", and he's like massive. Like that's the whole point. So anyways, thanks so much for joining me, guys. I hope you had fun listening to me kind of rant a little bit about this. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are of the game. Oh, they actually got some screenshots down here. I mean, I think they're all kind of shown in the trailer, but let's take a look. Discord blowing up. There we go. All right. So this is like the main banner. It's so weird. You've got like Wakanda shown over here, and then it's just like this is occupied Paris, obviously. But I don't really understand how they're going to be able to tie those two together. Granted, we've gotten one tiny story trailer, so there's probably something that I'm missing. I mean, obviously there is, and we'll have to find out more. But yeah, and then got that close up on Steve's face. Hold on. Did the stream get blammed? Hold on. I'll find out shortly. No. Okay. I just hadn't seen anybody post anything in the comments in a while. And the last time that happened, our stream got copyright struck because I was goofing around during When in Rome. But let's see. There's some footage of Black Panther running. This is that fight shot. I mean, the design for Black Panther looks great. This is a great Panther design. This shot kind of makes his look a little bit better, kind of a blend between what he wears in the MCU and the World War II suit from the Ultimates. What might get me to reconsider my stance on this is if you're able to swap out costumes for Cap, if you can like unlock costumes, if they make a well-rendered John Cassaday costume from like his Marvel Knights run and everything like that, I will probably consider throwing money at this. But as it stands, I'm not particularly impressed. I don't think that the story makes much sense. And I really don't like how they've handled Steve. I think that they've got his personality pegged wrong. I think that design-wise, he's way too small. He doesn't feel impressive. I mean, this is a guy that was a 90-pound asthmatic like 2 years prior and took the super soldier serum and got rid of his asthma, gained over 100 pounds of just like pure muscle and grew like 5 inches. So he doesn't feel particularly impressive. And I think that that's a mistake. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Glad that you guys were able to hang out for me. I'm going to go grab some lunch. But I hope you enjoyed my little take on Marvel 1943. Yeah, have a good one.